Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to a new segment on my channel. Not sure what the title is going to be yet, but most likely something about monthly music or music of the month. Basically, just doing sort of short reviews on new music that came out throughout the month and stuff that I listened to and just kind of my views on it. So, I guess we'll just get started with this one, the first month of the year, being January 2020. All right, so the first album I listened to this year, The Deadbeat Bang of Heartbreak City by Beach Slang. Beach Slang being a pretty indie band, more kind of on the punk side of stuff. I always thought this album, they go towards a more like 80s rock feel, which was great for the first like three songs, and then just it just kind of all felt the same. But there's some great songs thrown in there. It's not going to be one I go back and listen to a whole bunch. Most likely not going to be in my top list of the year. But there were some pretty good songs. I think my favorite one was Bam Rang Rang. Like I said, it was in the first couple songs of the album that kind of gave me a pretty neat just rock and roll feel. But yeah, actually it was kind of right after that song. Like Tommy in the '80s was pretty good, but I don't know, I stopped feeling it for some reason. This band I've liked for a while, and one thing I always liked about them was the vocalist. His voice is very raspy. Like singing voice I just really enjoyed, which comes through really clear on this one. They give it more attention on this album than they have previously, where he's been really subdued in his singing. This time he picks it up a little bit, but just the overall feel of this album didn't really do much for me. It's kind of like in the middle for me. I enjoy it, but I'm not gonna like go and listen to it over and over and over again. All right, so the next album I listened to was A Beginner's Guide to Bravery by David Keenan, an Irish singer-songwriter. Definitely comes through with that feel. I think I read an interview or watched an interview with him where when they were recording this album, they left the door open, which kind of messes with the acoustics, but gives it a more live feel, and that's what they were going for. They wanted a live feel to this album, and it shows pretty well. It's not really all that hard to do when most of your songs are just you and a guitar or you and a piano, but some tracks really shine through on this album with the full band sound going on. One of my favorite songs on it is Altar Wine. I can't really tell throughout this album whether David Keenan is very religious or very anti-religious, because he's got some lines in there that make it seem like, okay, there's a lot of God talk and you know, thanking God for things, but then like he throws in some stuff like getting drunk off altar wine, which, you know, you're not supposed to do. And there's a few other things. I can't remember the lines off the top of my head, but there's a few things there that made me think a little bit more. And I appreciate that. It was great. Not that I'm anti-religious. I was brought up Catholic, and now I kind of do my own thing. But, you know, it was interesting. I did really like this album. I trying to, you know, there's some like foreign acts who change their voice a little bit to sound more Americanized. David definitely doesn't do that. He is very Irish sounding, and I appreciate that. I just really, really enjoyed it. I feel like it was kind of short. maybe another track added in or another track or two added in would have given me a more of a feel. But this thing only had 11 songs, which, I mean, 11 songs is a pretty decent amount for an album, but they just seemed to go by quickly. I don't know if that was just because I liked it so much, so I was looking forward to the next song and kind of just sped through it. But I don't know, it seemed short. Maybe if I listen to it again, it won't seem all that short, but I really enjoyed it. If you're into singer-songwriter stuff with an Irish twist, check it out. Okay, the next album I listened to was the newest offering from Anti-Flag, 2020 Vision. Throughout our current president's 4-year term, I have been wanting, like begging for some kind of political punk rock. It was something I was super into when Bush was in the White House, and I felt like, oh man, with Trump in the White House, punk bands are going to come out swinging. It's going to go nuts. And so far, I've had none of that until this album. I thought I forget what the song was that I heard. I think maybe it's Christian Nationalist was the song I heard, and before that album dropped, it was like the first single I heard, and I was like, oh man, this whole album is going to be chock full of just, political punk rock, and it delivered halfway. I always liked Anti-Flag. They were always a staple for me when I was into my anti-establishment punk rock phase. And I was really hoping they were going to come out with something great on this one, and they did kind of. I think Christian Nationalist was a pretty good track. 2020 Vision was a pretty good track, but I think my favorite ones were the last two tracks, Un-American and Resistance Frequencies. Kind of a different feel on these songs than the rest of the album and the rest of Anti-Flag's discography. Very kind of slowed down. One of them even kind of drawing, it felt like from the countryside of music, kind of twangy guitarish, but still having that kind of political oomph to it. I enjoyed it. Not my favorite Anti-Flag album. Probably not going to make my top list either. I don't rate albums usually, but this would be another one that kind of falls to the middle area of what I like to listen to on a daily basis, but still pretty decent. I listen to all the new records on shuffle usually towards the end of the month, so I can get a good feel for everything, just kind of see how singular tracks hold up. And I found myself, when these Anti-Flag songs came on, I skip every other one just to get to something else, but it was still decent, I'll say. Okay, next album I listened to was Circles by Mac Miller. Rest in peace, Mac. This album is my favorite album of the month. Just because it's a posthumous album, but he was recording it at the same time, from what I understand, as he was Swimming. It was supposed to be a companion album to Swimming. The whole project was supposed to be Swimming in Circles, but this felt more like kind of a message from him in the last couple of days of his life. Just kind of showing the world where his mentality was at, which at times was beautiful and at times very, very lonely. it's hard to put into words what an album like this feels like, but it was lonely and beautiful. My favorite track off this one was Good News. I think that was... This album kind of came out as a surprise, to me at least. Like all of a sudden this track dropped, and then I think it came out on like Tuesday or something, and then Friday the whole album dropped. And I listened to part of Good News before the whole album came out, but I stopped like about halfway through, I think. It definitely gave me like feels, but it was fantastic. If you are a fan of Mac Miller, check it out. It definitely goes very well with Swimming, but not a whole lot of rap going on in this. Mac brings out his very sing-songy style, his R&B kind of style to this, with some funkiness thrown in on a couple tracks, and just it was just fantastic. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's really, really good. All right, then we had Eminem drop a brand new surprise album called Music to be Murdered By. I liked it better than his previous two albums. Revival was not fantastic, and Kamikaze was a little bit better, but still didn't really do it for me. This album I thought was pretty good. Could have dropped a few tracks. It ran a little bit long in my opinion, but it was overall pretty great. Wasn't a huge fan of the Young M.A. feature, and the Juice WRLD feature. I know a lot of people are going crazy over it, but it, like, that hook was just kind of... I don't get the Ice Road Truckers reference. I just didn't... I don't know. I didn't think it was all that special. I did appreciate the Royce features. The Ed Sheeran feature I wasn't a fan of. There was... Oh, Anderson .Paak was on it. Crooked Eye. Basically all of Slaughterhouse minus Joe Budden, for obvious reasons. But I thought those were great tracks. There was a few that I wasn't a huge fan of. I'm trying to remember them now. It's been a minute since I listened to it, but I think Stepdad I wasn't a huge fan of, and Little Engine I wasn't a huge fan of. But that Darkness track was amazing. It gave me like the old Stan feelings as far as his wordplay and giving you two different sides of the story. It was crazy. But overall, I really thought it was good. As far as like the rest of his discography, it goes right in the middle for me. It was terribly all right. All right, then we have AJJ, or Andrew Jackson Jihad, coming through with Good Luck Everybody. I really liked this album. This is that like political punk album I was really hoping for, but wrapped in the package of folk music. I really enjoyed it. There were a few tracks that I wasn't a huge fan of, but overall it was great. It's what I've been wanting for the last 3.5 years. Just fantastic folk punk songs. I don't know how else to describe it. If you don't know AJJ, give it a listen, but keep kind of an open mind with it. Trying to think of No Justice, No Peace, No Hope was great. Psychic Warfare was fantastic. They do these politically charged songs, but then throw in some humor into them, and they make it fantastic. Really, really, it's a really great album. I really, really enjoyed it. Give it a shot. Give it a listen. All right, the next record I listened to is from East Coast death metal duo Obsidian Tong, titled Volume 3. This record is only 5 songs long, but it runs for 45 minutes roughly. Two of the tracks actually, I believe the opener and the second to last song last about 15 minutes apiece. Just amazing, like just feels epic. I can't even describe it. The choral additions, the atmosphere, music, the orchestral arrangements tied in with the insane drumming and the crazy guitar licks going through it, and then the mixture of the singer's clean singing and then the like black metal screaming slash screeching kind of voice, just phenomenal. It really, really is. This is a band I'd never heard of before. I've been trying to branch out a lot more, and a lot of it has gone to the extreme metal side of music. And this is one that I can't even remember what website I looked up on. I have a habit of looking up just new release music websites, and this one came up. I don't even think I checked out a track before I just downloaded it. I think I just kind of went for it. But I'm so glad I did. It is phenomenal. If you're into black metal, I can see where it would be I could see where this could be a bit polarizing on both ends, because there is like that clean singing throughout a good portion of it, and the orchestra and stuff like that. For those diehard like death metal, black metal guys, they might not dig it. And then as far as people who aren't used to black metal or death metal, the super extreme stuff might throw them off a bit. But for me, it fits right in that like beautiful prime listening area that I just absolutely love. There's a whole lot of kind of Emperor feel to this project, and I just absolutely loved it. I have like two favorite songs on it. All five of them are fantastic. I absolutely love every single one of them. But Poison Green Dream and Empath are probably my favorites that kind of do that mixture just right, and it's just fantastic. It really, really is. All right, and then I listened to a new band that I think is a new band. This is their only release, and it's an EP. So Phalanx is the name of them. I believe they're from California. Put out an EP called Golden Horde. The frontman, one of the singers, they utilize three singers in this band, but the frontman is Keir Gilchrist, actor from Atypical, which took me by surprise. I love him in that show, and then to see him mix that with a career in metal was fantastic. And so I decided to just jump at the chance to grab this up, and I enjoyed it for the most part. I wish I knew which vocals were his. I have a feeling that they're the more high-pitched screechy vocals, which I kind of expected. I'm not sure if it is though, but I do enjoy it. This EP is 6 songs long, only 2 of them over 3 minutes, so pretty short. The reason I say deathcore is because it really lends itself to the more hardcore side of music, and then the vocals and lyrics support that like death metal side of things. But really took me by surprise. I really enjoyed it. I think Goliath's Spring is probably my favorite song off of this EP. If you're into that sort of thing, or if you're curious to see what Keir's day job is, give it, or actually it'd be like weekend nighttime job is, check this out. Okay, and that's all the music I listened to this month. Well, all the new music I listened to this month. Most of it pretty decent. Some of it in the middle. Didn't have anything that was really, really bad, so I'm excited about that. If I had to pick like an album of the month, it's kind of a toss-up for me between the Mac Miller album Circles and the Obsidian Tong album Volume 3. Both of them really knocked me out. The Mac Miller one didn't really surprise me much because after swimming I figured he died after swimming, but hearing that he was putting out an album that kind of coincided with swimming, I figured it would sound a lot like Swimming and Circles did, but a little more sing-songy R&B, less rap in this one. What I expected, but it was so full of emotion, and a lot of the songs were really stripped down, and I really, really liked that. The Obsidian Tongue one absolutely took me by surprise. To have that mixture of old school black metal and the kind of cleaner production of what kind of music is coming out now just was fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. I don't want to say one or the other, but they were both amazing. Yeah, so that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, let me know, please. If there's any albums I missed this month, let me know in the comments. I can go back and check them out. There are a few albums I'm really excited that are coming out in February, so watch out for that video. I also just got word that one of my favorite bands of all time is coming out with a new record in March, so I'm super stoked on that. So yeah, keep checking back, and maybe I'll turn you on to some new music, and maybe you can let me know about some new music and stuff that you're into. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.